welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how to deal with petty patty. For those of you who don't know what I mean by petty patty, that's an old saying that you would call someone petty patty if they were petty. They use small insignificant details to invoke a larger negative response in you. And they'll do it over and over again. It's like plucking hairs, dealing with them. And so, how do you deal with a person like this? First things first is to identify these people in your lives. You got to know who these petty patties are. And you really have to be very careful with how you deal with them. You have to monitor your time spent with them. You have to put them in their proper place in your mind, in your heart, and in your spirit. Because if you don't put petty patty in a proper place, he or she will become very significant to your personal development. They will begin to kind of eat away at you slowly. They will occupy a tremendous amount of your attention. They will steal your gifts and talents. They will slowly chip away at your spirituality if you're not careful. Because what they do is they like to, I look at petty patties as people who don't have permission to be bold, don't have permission to be direct and upfront. And when I say they don't have permission, for a significant amount of reasons, they may not give themselves permission to be open and direct and honest, or they may be kept on a leash by someone or something who tells them that you can't say this, you can't do that. And so, because they're so restricted by someone else's law, someone else's rules, what the way they get their point across, the way they kind of strike a nerve with you and express themselves in the form of acting out is by being petty patty. They will focus on little details, the little things that you might do wrong, insignificant details that either way would make no significant difference in anyone else's life. They feel as though it has to be mentioned, it has to be brought to the light, can't let it slide. That's petty patties. And so for me, I can't stand petty patties. It is ridiculous because the issue that I have with petty patty is that if you're not careful, a petty patty can bring you out of your character. They can suck you into their way of thinking, and you yourself will transform into a petty patty. It is so easy to find yourself in that situation with someone like this. They will do the tit for tat, and as much as you try to rise above it, it's a very immature, very low frequency vibration to be a petty patty. You are basically skimming at the scraps of life that are left and using those scraps to cause confusion in other people's lives rather than standing up and being a trailblazer, being an open and honest person, being a person who stands up and says, this is not right and this is my reasons why. Because you are so restricted or you don't have permission, you haven't given yourself permission, you then begin to just use small passive aggressive ways to invoke very large responses in people. And you're most of the time, petty patties are successful because they're consistent. They don't stop. And that's the, kind of the mechanism that they use. It's because it's a bunch of small tit for tats, that eventually even the most mature, grounded, balanced person may find themselves entertaining a petty patty and being sucked in by that tit for tat process, and to the point where you begin to say, well, you know what? Just to stick it to them, I'll do this. And once you start it, they got you. They got you on this roll of you do this, I do that. Little subliminal tit for tats. And it's so funny because it's a very cowardly frequency. It's a very, again, like I said, a low vibrational frequency. And it's very cowardly because at the same time, what happens is that a petty patty is doing these insignificant small acts of aggression in order to invoke in you a large response. And if you try to explain to someone what petty patties are doing, They deliberately do just enough that you would know what they're trying to do, that you would notice the annoyance. But if you try to explain it to others, it's very hard to get someone outside of the scope to see the pettiness of their actions, especially because once you join them, it now looks as you begin to now look like you're no better than them. And it's really hard to express to other people how you got to this place of this petty back and forth. Many people misunderstand petty for being detailed or analytical, and that's very different. Again, when you are picking out major iconas, major situations in people's lives that need to be addressed, and you are confronting them on it, and maybe you have to confront them more than once, that is not being petty. That is, again, you are confronting someone on their shadow side. You are addressing the issues that you see, and these issues are valid. That's not being petty patty. Petty patty is somebody who, again, like I said, takes insignificant details. For example, if you have a little girl who is struggling mentally, physically, spiritually, she's probably going through things at home. There's a ton of weight on this little child's back, and it's so heavy that if you ask her, she will open her mouth and tell you everything that's going on with her. However, her mother, uh, being a passive aggressive petty patty, is confronted by someone who is a leader, someone who is not a petty patty. And this person says, "Hey, I noticed that your daughter is struggling emotionally. I noticed that there's some things she's going through." Petty patty gets offended, but petty patty is under extreme restriction, and she does not give herself permission to be upfront and honest and blunt. Or someone else, maybe dad, does not give petty patty the permission to open her mouth and be vocal about what she feels about what I said. So, in retaliation, petty patty will send her daughter back to school and will send notes every day to me, the teacher, and will ask the teacher, "Oh, could you make sure that my daughter's all of her barrettes are together and sent back? Last time it was missing one." And so Petty Patty will do things like that. Um, the next note, every day, clockwork. Then every time you see this child has a note, this child has a message for you from Petty Patty. And so what Petty Patty is doing is slowly but surely chopping up her larger message into small petty actions that can hopefully express her feelings of anger, frustration, annoyance, and do it in a way that is under the radar. And so for me, when I'm dealing with a petty patty, I have very little respect for people like that. But I also understand why they are there. These are people who, again, like I said, are very restricted. People who are or have been picked apart themselves and have um, very closed minds, very low self-esteem, because you don't believe that you have the right to speak your mind and to speak what's on your mind. And so you hide behind these small passive aggressive acts that get you nowhere. And all it does is eat away at you and create these tit for tat games that slowly but surely eat away at the person that you're attacking, but they also take a lot of the energy of petty patty. And so petty patties, although the word pat, the name patty is associated with women, petty patties can be males as well. And that's just, the reality of it. Petty patties can definitely be males. And so identify your petty patty and put them in a proper place in your mind. You cannot handle them the way you would handle someone else who is more direct. You cannot deal with their insecurities the way you would deal with someone else who's open and honest and just confrontational. You can't deal with it that way. You got to identify them and put them in your mind as honestly a very immature, uh, childlike energy. And you have to always keep that in mind. that this source that they're using is a very innocent, childlike energy, and I must monitor how much of my, mature energy or adult energy I choose to give to this childlike energy. It's a very low frequency, and so you have to monitor what you give to it. The second thing is that you have to understand that these are people who are hurting. They are hurting and they are restricted and they have to be hurting. There's no way that they're not. Simply because when you are not allowed to be who you are, to say what you need to say, it is like a, knot in your stomach, and you can never untie it. And you walk around all the time being misunderstood and can never defend yourself, being categorized and sized up, and can never stand up for yourself to say or show yourself, that you show your true self to the world. And so that's got to be frustrating. And so, in order to deal with the petty patty, I like to try to just understand who this kind of person really is. Aside from their annoyances and their actions, who are they? Part three is that you have to realize that your life and your aura and your area of this world that you call your own, you govern over. You are in charge of what comes in and you are in charge of what comes out. Petty patties have to be restricted, and you have to take control of your domain. You must keep them at bay. You cannot allow them to be a part of your everyday cycle. You must have a way of shutting them off, closing them out until they are necessary. You can do that. You can do that. You can choose to say, I only look at messages from them on this one day, depending on what the relationship is. If there is a husband and wife, a baby daddy relationship, baby mama relationship, in which you must deal with a petty patty type of person on a regular basis, then you're going to have to truly set up boundaries for this person to follow. These boundaries will protect you and they will protect your aura. They will protect your peace. And that's really what you need to do when dealing with a petty patty, is protect your peace, because that's what they're after. They're after your peace of mind. They want to shake you. They want to bring you in a place of mental captivity where they live and where they dwell. But if you are wise, if you are balanced, if you are constantly filtering and recycling your thoughts and making sure you check yourself basically before you wreck yourself, then petty patty will have will not stand a chance against you. They won't succeed in their goal of transferring their negative pent up energy to you. So if you are someone dealing with the petty patty, I say keep your head up. Get to the point where you can actually laugh at some of the stuff, depending on how petty and how serious they are. After a while, you really begin to see it for its weakness. And once you expose something for its weakness, it loses its power, it loses its sting, and you're able to now control it. Take control, because you have control over your space in this world, your life, your aura, your mind, your peace, and keep these people in their proper place. By doing that, you eventually create a wall between you and petty patty. And when you create that wall, everything that petty patty does hits a brick wall and bounces right back to them. It no longer gets any fizz. They need to see evidence. And that's one of the biggest things with petty patties. They will eventually stop, become extremely frustrated, and their plan will backfire on them. The energy will kind of hit that brick wall and bounce back on them. And for every, subliminal negative thing they try to do to you, it will bounce back to them and they will become extremely frustrated and angry and desperate, because they don't see the evidence that their initiative is taking hold of you, that it's working. And so what you need to do is not to affirm a petty patty. Do not send them any small or large signs that what they're doing is working. Let it fall on the ground. the sly comments, the silly requests, the minimal nitpicking. Let it drop to the ground like rain, because the minute you give it life, the minute you let them know that you recognize it, is the minute that it intensifies, because they realize that their power, and their agenda is working. So these are just my little ways of how to deal with a petty patty. I've come across plenty in my life, and I'm dealing with one now, and it's really something that is can become very annoying until I begin to realize who I am and what I bring to the table and who they are and what they have to do, because this is something that petty patty has to do. A human being must express themselves one way or another. You're going to express yourself, whether negatively or positively. You have got to express yourself. It's like a can of soda that you shake up and it explodes. You've got to get it out. So I understand that petty patty has to get it out, whoever that may be in your life and who that is in my life. However, I do not have to be present when the eruption happens. I do not have to be a part of that process. I can stop it at the door. I can put it in its proper place, and I can, avoid giving it life. And I don't have to affirm it. I don't have to confirm it. I don't have to let you know that it's working, because it's not working. The world is filled with huge issues that we have to deal with, huge problems that we have to face. And we just don't have time to give to those low vibrational people. They are going to learn eventually, and my heart does go out to them that they do learn how to manage, how to recycle their thoughts and their feelings, how to stand up for themselves, how to express themselves in a way that doesn't have to be looked at as wrong, how to just state their truth and live in that no matter what, not to be restricted by any person, including themselves, to allow themselves the permission, give themselves the permission to be human. And that is my prayer for my perfect patties out there. So if you are dealing with the perfect patty, I hope that this message was helpful and insightful in dealing with them and rise above them. It's such a low vibrational frequency, such a low vibrating individual. It's easy to rise above them if you want to. So thank you so much for listening. And until next time.